All right, I got my lame shirt on, and what we're going to do is we're going to take something that looks suspicious, but explain it, because what appears to be suspicious is actually something normal. Let's get to it. Give a little backstory here. I seen a video that John Wolf did regarding the boys of Sam and Colby. They were at some place, and apparently they captured like a shadow figure or something like that. But there was something in that video that John Wolf pointed out that he said seemed suspicious, but got an answer for that. Now, I know the Shape did a video on this as well. I'm not even going to get into that whole thing. Whatever. I'm going to do things a little different here. I am going to reference John Wolf's video because, well, the overall image, it's just better, and it's something that he points out. Quickly for context, and I will link this video along with the Shapes video in the description box. Anyways, the boys, Sam Colby, they go to this location. I cannot remember what it's called, but apparently they had captured like a shadow person. I'm going to go ahead and let John explain what's going on here and have him point out what he sees as suspicious. And then what I'm going to do is, well, I'm going to explain exactly what is going on. And quickly, I'm not saying what the boys and Sam and Colby captured here is real, fake, staged, whatever. That's not the point of this video. All right, here we go.
This appears to be a full-body apparition that the boys captured on camera. If it's real, it's possibly the most compelling piece of paranormal evidence ever caught on video. If it's real. Hi, I'm going to be playing paranormal weatherman here for a while. So let's get this part out of the way. I find this clip fascinating. If it's real, it's incredible. If it's fake, it's still a very cool clip, straight out of a horror movie. There's just enough detail to see the vague outline of a shadowy figure, but not enough detail to be able to confirm or dismiss it. It's truly ambiguous.
All right, so I don't see anything. I don't see a shadow person, an outline of a person. I don't see anything.
They caught something here, but what the heck is it? Well, I've watched this clip over and over, slowed it down, zoomed in, brightened it up, and surprisingly, even with all that assistance, it didn't help much. The image here is very lacking in detail, which is partly why it's so compelling. There's nothing I can point to and say, aha, undeniable proof that this is edited, staged, whatever else. With that said, I still have a lot of thoughts. This thing ain't watertight. These points I'm about to bring up aren't what I would call gotchas. They're more just things to think about regarding this scene, because actually, while the footage of the apparition itself is pretty compelling, there's a lot of little things around the footage that I have a problem with. But let's start with the apparition. One thing to keep in mind is that this is an extremely low light environment, and almost any camera, even pretty expensive prosumer models, tend to struggle with low light.
That is very true. And there's also something else going on here that involves the camera.
I'm not knowledgeable enough to really break it down to a PowerPoint for you, but stuff like this wiggling, blurry line we have here on the left.
I'm not seeing a wiggly, blurry line. What I do see is what appears to be a banister. So I'm going to assume that there is a staircase right outside that door.
The corner of the wall just before the darkness. This is the kind of thing that happens with cameras when there's very low light. The camera kind of shrugs and goes, I don't know what's over there, bro. Beats me. I'm just gonna guess. You get blurry, wiggly mess.
Okay, yeah, that does happen.
Is like this line. I'm saying all this because you might think upon seeing something like this that there's some kind of video editing happening. Because when you see wiggly lines like this, that can be evidence of something called masking, which is when a video editor basically inserts a new scene into the footage. They basically Photoshop it in. But yeah, I think in this case, it's just the camera struggling with low light. Not
Okay. So yeah, there's no masking here. And what you guys are seeing, all these little like black dots and stuff like that, it's just pixelation. I'm not going to get super technical here. Has something to do with the sensor. It's all we need to know.
not necessarily evidence of any video editing. And the thing about this footage is that I struggle to find any blatant evidence of video editing in general. The only part that I find a little weird.
I'll pause it right there. Yeah. Yeah, as a banister. Okay. But I still don't know what he's talking about with squiggly lines.
Is right here. Because the footage gets really dark. Conveniently dark. Just as the apparition walks into frame. Compare how dark it is here in this shot with the apparition to the very next time that the cameraman looks down that same hallway. See how bright it is here? You can see everything. But just 1 minute earlier, the hallway is so dark that you can't make out anything. And this is strange behavior, not for the camera, but for the cameraman.
Okay. So I guess he finds it strange that that area gets really dark when the camera guy zooms in.
A person named Dose. The boys aren't alone in Airedale Asylum. They've brought along 2 other people. There's camera A, operated by Alana, and camera B, operated by Dose.
The only people here right now is us, Dose, and Alana right over there.
We'll talk about Alana in a moment, but for now, I want to focus on Dose because his camera work in this scene is very suspect to me. Not everyone agrees, though. Here's Eddie talking in his reaction video about Dose's pristine camera work.
Telling you, Dose is like a robot. He has like this cameraman intuition of pointed it right at the fucking moment.
So in Eddie's opinion, Dose got the perfect shot at the perfect time. But actually, Dose got a very bad shot. Here's the incredibly dark, incredibly narrow shot he got of the apparition. And here's the brightly lit, wide view of the same hallway he got just 1 minute later. In fact, Dose looks down this hallway many times in this scene, and it's always the same. You see everything. Here's the first time Dose looks down that hallway, right after they turn off the lights. Here's the second time he records it. Still nice and bright. About 15 minutes later, we get a worse view of it, but you can still see down the hallway. Here, Dose gets a great shot. Really wide, bright. You can see everything. So all 4 of those shots are fine. Then on shot number 5 for the apparition, for some reason, Dose pans to this hallway already zoomed in. And he insists on taking this really narrow, dark shot that is really unusual compared to the other 4 times he's looked down this hallway. He doesn't look down this hallway again until 60 seconds later when, once again, it's a great shot. Now, you tell me, which of these shots stands out to you as the odd one out?
All right, so let's have a look at this here real quick. Every single shot is different, obviously. Now, shot 5, this is where John's talking about how dark that part is of that hallway. But here's something that all of these shots have in common. All of the angles are different, and angles absolutely matter. Shot 1, different angle than shot 2. Shot 3, different angle than 2 and 1, and so on. Angles make a huge difference.
Again, I'm not saying this is definitive proof it's staged or fake or anything like that, but you have to admit, it's a little suspicious.
Honestly, it's not suspicious at all. This video is already too long as it is. I did not want to make my video this long. I'm going to skip a bunch of stuff again. I will have a link in my description box to John Wolf's video. That way you guys can see it in its full context. Let's jump ahead.
A couple minutes later in the video, the boys show their reaction when they see the footage played back, which they introduce with this scene. We went back and looked the footage. You know, whoever's editing this should maybe proofread the title cards. Whoever they are. Anyway, here's their reaction.
What the?
Oh my god.
They also insist that the apparition is unnaturally tall. Bookmark this point for later. It's important.
Look at, he's like
Shut
the
up.
size of the door, bro.
They're like 7 foot tall out there.
Now in this scene, they're watching.
They have the exact same IR light I have. It also looks like they're using the same camera that I have. Now, they could be using an AX53 or an AX100, I don't know, but it's definitely a Sony camera. There's actually nothing really suspicious about that footage. In fact, the camera's acting as it should. And quite honestly, it's actually really easy to recreate. So what's happening? Well, I have the answer. What is actually happening here isn't anything suspicious. The camera's actually functioning as it should. To keep it simple, basically what is happening is when somebody's zooming in, the camera's getting a much narrow field of view. Because the camera's getting a much narrower field of view, less light is hitting the sensor, therefore making the footage when zooming in darker. Now looking at these still shots that John took, every single one of these stills, you can see that their camera guy is in different positions, therefore getting different angles. Let's look at shot 5 because there is a lot going on here. So first off, really nothing is in focus. And I'm going to guess that this is the door frame. That's the closest thing that looks to be in focus, to be honest. The rest of it, blurry mess. So if this part of the door frame where I'm circling around with my cursor isn't exactly in focus, then we look over to the left and we can see this is just completely out of focus. And that's the second furthest away from the camera. Well, now if we look in the center where it's all black, yeah, there's nothing in focus here. And that's going to make things look even darker than what it really is. Now let's look at some of these other shots. Okay, so shot 1, probably motion blur, I'm not sure, or maybe it's just out of focus. It's an all-out bad shot, but yeah, we can see down that hall or whatever that is. Now look at shot 2. Completely different angle, but we can still see a little bit of what's down that hall. Everything seems to be well lit from the IR light. Shot 3. Again, this is a very different angle. And it looks like the edge of the door here is about the only thing that's actually in focus. But when we look where down the hallway should be, or whatever that is, we can't see a thing. Angle's playing a big role in this. Shot 4, great shot. We can see everything, but again, this is a different angle. And he's basically like in front of the door. We've already looked at shot 5. I explained shot 5, and we have shot 6. And again, lit up well, we can see what's on the other side of the door, but again, the angle. The other thing to notice, shot 3 and shot 5, because where their camera guy's positioned, we have a very narrow field of view looking past the door. And that is also going to have an effect on the footage. Honestly, there is nothing suspicious about this shot. The camera's functioning as it should. And as I mentioned earlier in this video, this is something that can very easily be recreated. Now, one of the challenges I was having, because that wasn't exactly a perfect one-for-one recreation of that, one of the problems I was having is that I don't know exactly how far away they are from that doorway. I don't know how much light they actually had in that place. So there's a lot of information that I just don't have, but I tried to recreate it as close as I could. That's exactly what's happening. They're zooming in, less light is hitting the sensor, things are out of focus. So there you go. There's your answer. Till the next one.